Greetings and welcome into the Sports Shuffle. I am Flying Ryan Gokers along with.
Tampa Motor Mouth Joel Verlin, and it's time. We're here, the Great Eight, such as it were.
Yeah, we're down
Four
to.
teams, and I think that you generally for the wild card round, you tended to have generally. Yes, I know I'm repeating myself. I do that
Generally.
generally, kernelly, privately. I know. Okay, we won't do that one to death, but seriously, you tended to have generally good games. It started out okay, and but the two ones I think that you tended to remember, at least for me, the most was Packers Bears. Oh my God,
Yep.
and of course, the absolutely utter complete futility of that Monday night game. That was an absolute horrendous, horrific horror show.
Yeah, we did this weird thing where each game for the first four pretty much went the losing score was a winning score the next game. 34-31, Rams over the Panthers became 31-27 win over the Packers for the
Like,
Bears.
holy crap, they
Then
might do it. They might do
then
it. No.
27-24 over the Jags for the Bills, and then almost the same score, 23-19 with the Eagles. And then we got the turds, Patriots over Chargers and Texans over Steelers.
But that was not as bad as the Monday night game when you had 175 flipping total yards for the
It
Pittsburgh
was bad.
Steelers. As I was, I joked it was actually a comment that was liked on the dumpster fire because during the video, because they were basically, I think they're talking about, I think Harbaugh, since there hasn't been any talk about Harbaugh this week, right? Oh my good God! But and you had, you know who 5 Points is, right?
Yeah,
Five
Giants.
point 5 points was playing with a football like for a good portion of the stream. So my comment was 5 points did more with the football than the Steelers did in the entire first half because I mean I was trying to listen to the radio broadcast. I'm like, oh my, I'm trying not to say the word, but oh my, they can't do crap. And then I gave up on the radio broadcast. So then I switched over to VSiN because they're good and they keep track of the games and what's going on, and they talk about possession. And literally, I kid you not, for the Steelers games, okay, Steelers can't do anything for this possession. They go three and out. Okay, the Steelers have it again. They can't do anything, and the Steelers have it again. And I'm like to myself, oh my God. And it just felt like flipping Groundhog Day. They can't do it. They can't do anything. And so after the game was over, I'm like, I know Tomlin can't be fired just because the Steelers tend not to do that. He just has so much pull. Well, not it's not pull. Maybe it's just sort of a
Gravitas.
yeah, it's sort of a mutual respect,
Yeah.
I think, type thing. Just in the general, they don't want to fire people, unless it's something just absolutely egregious. And you had the feeling after that game, after that fourth quarter, that not fired, but I was, part of me was shocked, but another part of me was like, nah, it was time when he stepped down after that game. Just he knew after that just utter complete demonstration of utter futility. I mean, and the other time was I just my one of my picks. I was like, well, how about DK Metcalf going over and the number of times you're like, he's open, throw to DK, and it's just like sitting on the 42 yards endlessly. You're going, get up to 54. 54. Go to 55. Just 42. 42. And there he is. There he is. He's back. He's back in the offense. Your main man, your main weapon, and your throw to the K. I'm
But Joel, the real question is, what's the answer to the universe? That's what DK was doing. He was getting the answer to the universe with 42.
Yeah, I think Deep Thought once said 42.
Yeah. Um, we still don't know what that question is, but we'll get there. So yeah, we'll
Surprisingly, the only thing that Petunia's had going through its mind was, "Oh no, not again." Sorry,
yeah.
had to.
So we'll quickly go over the games in a little bit of detail. Again, Rams 34-31 win over the Panthers. The Panthers actually look great in this
You
game.
got you got to give it to Canales. I mean, all of a sudden, considering how much of a lack of an offense other than Tatora McMillan and maybe Xavier Leggett, and then of course you had Dowdle and Schumer Hubbard, but Dowdle was definitely the super stud for more portion of the season. But yeah, they've got some building blocks in Carolina, and I'm not going to be surprised all of a sudden, Carolina just starts to rise to the top, and they are the dominant force in the NFC South.
We'll see. I mean, the Panthers are going to have a first place schedule on a team like the Saints, who were I think the Saints at the end of the year were playing the best football in that division. They're going to have a fourth place schedule.
Tyler,
If they
oh
could
my
build
God,
on that, I mean, that division is absolutely 100% wide open. You know, we're in Florida. We're chilling today, literally in Florida, and
yep.
we know a lot of Bucks fans, and a lot of them that I talk to are like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" It's like you're going to need to get a healthy Baker Mayfield and work on that defense. If you do
Yeah,
that, you have the
you need a
weapons. Whether or
quarterback
not
that
Evans
doesn't
comes
have
back, we'll
every
see.
body part injured. That would probably be a better idea.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say Evans does walk off into the sunset and retire. You still have Godwin, you still have Ibuka, you still have McMillan, you still have you still have more weapons there. You've got Otten, you've got Bucky Irving. We don't know what's going to happen to Rashad White in the offseason. You still have enough weapons. You still have a decent enough offensive line. You
Plus, the
focus
Bucks
on that
really
defense.
cleaned house as far as a lot of the coaches go.
Yeah.
So I
If you
know
focus on the defense, they'll be good. They'll be good. They'll be right there once again. The Panthers look like they're on the ascend. The Falcons, I don't know what they do at quarterback because Kirk
they
Cousins
they
looked
don't
great
know
at
they
the
don't
end.
know what the hell they're going to do.
And then, like I said, the Saints look like they were playing the best football at the end of the season. So that could be another very wide open division. Hopefully, a little bit better of a division record wise at the end of the year. But the Panthers showed up. They went toe to toe with one of the best teams in football, one of the odds on favorites to win the Super Bowl. They didn't quite get it done. Matthew Stafford comes up clutch to snatch their hearts out, apparently, was the phrase he used in the huddle going for that touchdown. But a lot of credit to the Panthers for showing up because a lot of people said, "Oh, 8-9 teams, they don't belong in the playoffs. They can't compete. They can't do it." They'd already beaten the Rams once. They almost
That
did again.
flipping close to one of the playoff wins of the year, if not even decade.
Yeah, probably the decade at this point. But we'll move on to the Bears come from behind win over the Packers 31-27. It was 21-3
And
at halftime
no,
in favor of the Packers, and
Matt LaFleur has not been fired.
he's getting extended. You lose twice to the Bears, including in the postseason, and the Packers coach gets extended. That's a
Huh?
choice. I didn't necessarily think he was going to get fired, but if they would have went out and completely laid an egg in both halves, maybe he does. But they looked good in the first half, and then the Bears.
Implosion of the freaking year. Because, I mean, you look at that score, you're just like, okay, they can't do anything. Bears are done. They can't do spit.
Mhm.
There's, I mean, no hope. And then all of a sudden, what the?
Yeah, going to be a long off season for the Packers. Obviously, Micah Parsons being hurt, he'll be back next season. Might not be there to start the season, but pretty soon after that. They still have a good team. They still have good weapons. We'll see. But the Bears move on. Also moving on are the Buffalo Bills in what I think was the best game of Sunday by quite a large margin.
Yeah, because you had the Jaguars going in there, just switched on both offense and defense, and definitely healthier than the Bills. And you just were like, how?
Yeah, the Bills, Josh Allen willing them to victory. The offense got just enough to win. The Jags, Trevor Lawrence, a late
Especially even with
interception.
James Cook, that they managed to handle him, and still,
When you've got Josh Allen, you've always got a shot. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get him to the Super Bowl. They're going to have to go through Denver next week and a very tough team in either Houston or New England if they should win against Denver. So, I from my personal opinion, I think Buffalo's the worst team remaining in the Final Four in the AFC. But they are. It's one of those where if you put the ratings, the percent chances of winning the conference at this point, most teams are right around that 25%. They might just be the one at 21 or 20, whereas
Out,
the best teams got like 27%.
out of all coaches, is Sean McDermott the one who has the most pressure on his butt right now?
Yeah, he is for the rest of the way because he's been there for a long time. The Bills have always run into Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or a big name Joe
Neither of
Burrow,
which they both bye bye.
a big name quarterback that's ended up knocking them out on the way to their attempts to win Super Bowls and to win Super Bowls. And this year, you've got to go through Trevor Lawrence. You've got to go through Bo Nix. You've got to go through either C.J. Stroud and Drake May. And no
CJ
offense,
Stroud didn't exactly look immortal on Monday.
and no offense to Drake May because he's possibly the MVP on the season, and no offense to Trevor Lawrence who had his best season of his career, but they are not on the level of Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. So there's a lot of people out there, I know Andy from the Fantasy Footballers being one of them, saying you need to go and win it. The field is too wide open for Buffalo to not at least get to the Super Bowl. And then who knows who you're going to play on the other side of the bracket because the NFC is still pretty wide open with the
So,
NFC West and the Bears.
what was your thought and opinion of the reporter who was praising Liam Cohen afterwards? Too much, inappropriate,
In a
or
world of such negativity, it was good to see someone just try and be kind.
yeah,
And
because
maybe
usually
the press conference from a reporter is not the time and place to do it, but I liked it. It was refreshing to see them actually wanting to be nice and say, "Hey, you're going to get a lot of criticism," and I'm sure before that he had. I don't know what was asked before or what was asked after. I just know that clip because it went absolutely viral. But I'm sure it is what could you have done different? What did you fail to do today that they did? And then Jesus comes up and says, "Hey, you had a hell of a season. Congratulations. Hold your head up high. You're building something great here. Don't let this set you back and set your sights on next season. We'll get it, Duval. Let's go." And he's
yeah,
like, "That's pretty cool."
yeah, 'cause usually it's like, uh, Coach Gilchrist, your team really choked bad on 4th and 3. Why do you suck so horribly?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's good to see someone be nice about it. That only works when you're a team that was drafting number 2 overall last season that gets a division title, that gets a home playoff game against a perennial favorite that comes up just short in an even game. You can't do this next year and the year after if you're Jacksonville and sustain it. You have to start advancing from there. But this year they went from the team that would have picked they were picking number 5, traded up to number 2. They went from a top 5 picking team to the number 3 seed in the AFC, winning the AFC South over what was a pretty good division with Houston and Indianapolis until the Daniel Jones injury. So it's a great season. It's good to see them get rewarded. Next year, if you get knocked out in the first round, you're not going to have that rah rah, let's go get them kind of vibe in the press conference because, well, now that's 2 years in a row. You're starting to be a little bit more like Mike Tomlin.
And then, of course, you had, how about the 49ers?
Yeah, losing George Kittle to an Achilles injury very early in this game.
Ooh, especially
I
after all the work he did to
I
get
know.
back to come to this game.
And unfortunately, I've seen enough of these this year where I know the telltale signs of it with the calf snap and everything, exactly how it looks. As soon as it happened, I went, well, there's the Achilles. It's gone. He's going to be out for the rest of this season and probably a good chunk of next. I think you can come back from Achilles on the shorter end of the timeline in 6 months. I know with Aaron Rodgers, they were talking about could you come back at the end of the season, but there's no point. But the 49ers they continue to get it done with the mass unit that they have. Christian McCaffrey is still great. Jawan Jennings throwing touchdown passes. Brock Purdy having a good game. The Eagles finally firing offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, which most people are very happy about that. But the reigning champs go down in the wild card round. AJ Brown drops the ball and the hopes and dreams
Literally.
of Philadelphia. And the Eagles are gone. The Niners continue
And
to
how
move on.
and how many times since that game do you think we have seen the clip of Sirianni and AJ Brown going at it ad infinitum, ad nauseum by this point?
Yeah, see, I try not to watch the traditional sports media, but I'm sure anytime you're talking about the Eagles, they do these dumb things on like the sports centers and stuff where they're talking about a story. They'll play like the same 6 clips on a loop and then go back and they'll show someone talking for 15 seconds to show the same 6 clips on a loop. Like, yeah, you can make like a 1 minute long cut of something and you don't have to keep doing the same six. And I guarantee that is one of them.
And now, here's the same highlight. You've already seen this about 5 gajillion times. We've got to show it one
Yeah,
more
it's a 4 minute
time.
conversation. They show this package of interactions 17 different times. Like, you could have just put a picture of them talking and said, look, drama. I don't like ESPN anymore, but that's just me.
Yeah, I know. Oh, and did you see the Stephen A. Smith
Nope.
gaff?
Nope.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay, I
I
won't.
don't. I don't. If I see Stephen A. Smith, I usually have had a bad day in some capacity.
Okay, then
I
then we will not bring it up because it has
I
been
mean, you can
probably.
tell me what he did, but at the same
Oh
time,
no,
it's just like I
it.
don't look for things that he's done. I don't like to hear his takes. I think he's just a loud mouth and
Oh
obnoxious,
no,
and just not my taste.
he was talking about Christian Kirk, and instead of Christian, he used Charlie. Oops.
Slightly different person.
Oh yeah,
One is deceased, and the other is going to the AFC divisional
and
round.
we won't bring anything else into that or go down any roads. As I always try to have a prime directive when it comes to that because there's enough of that on the internet. But I just saw that and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah, it's you should know that if you're a sportscaster like Stephen A. Smith, you've done it for a long time, and Christian Kirk's not a new player, you should be able to not mess that name up, especially when the name you mess it up with is, let's just call it polarizing and leave it there.
both both of us have had yeah, both of us have had times where we have fumbled and messed up gloriously because we're human beings. We are less than perfect, and I don't think ever pretend to be. And because if you ever pretend to be perfect, you ain't.
Yeah. Anyways, think I lost Joel. No, there he is. All right, next up, Patriots 16-3 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers were outmatched pretty much the entire way. The offensive line just could not protect Justin Herbert, and that was really the key to this game. The Patriots didn't look great. First time they played a really good team
They
in a while, but they do get the job done.
they were good enough to win.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes next week as they play the Houston Texans, who we've kind of talked about this game a little bit already. Couple late defensive touchdowns really blew this one open as the Texans win 30-6. CJ Stroud 5 fumbles in a win. That's not supposed to happen, but Aaron Rodgers, that what might be his final game, was an absolute steaming pile of just
Can you
elephant
imagine
turds.
being your last pass being a pick six in the National Football League?
I mean, before Brady went to Tampa, it was supposed to be that way with the interception he threw against Tennessee. But we'll see. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to lead a team to glory anytime soon. I don't think he's capable of that at this point. But he is definitely better than a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be in the NFL next year. Let's just look at whoever's going to be starting for the Raiders as of right now. Aaron Rodgers would be an upgrade. You can look at that in a few different teams, and he'll probably get another chance if he wants one. I just don't know if he really wants one.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming down to Miami.
He better not. I'm sorry. At this point, if you're gonna be in Miami, you don't go get someone who's got no future. You let Quinn Ewers do it. If you're done with Tua, you let Quinn Ewers be the starting quarterback. You don't have
Right.
an early enough pick to go get a quarterback. One of the best quarterbacks in this potential draft class that withdrew his name. Some say because he didn't want to go to the Jets. Some say because he wasn't ready. Either way, that's one less name in the pot for quarterbacks this season. It's not a good time for Miami to go try and get somebody old. It's not a good time for them to get someone new. Rest on what you've got for right now.
Yeah, and don't trade for AJ Brown, especially if you don't have anybody who can throw to him.
AJ Brown, I've heard this fit linked is Buffalo because they need a guy like AJ Brown because they don't have a guy. They don't have a guy much better than either one of us, honestly, at the wide receiver position. They need a guy that can just be Josh Allen's go-to target. They don't have it. We'll see what happens. I don't necessarily think AJ Brown leaves Philadelphia. I think that the play calling was terrible. He's been good in the past. He can be good again with that team. Only time will tell what actually happens. All right, Joe was 4-2 with picks last week. I was 3-3. I am now 181, 96, and 1. Joel is 174, 103, and 1, and we have 7 games left. So, should Joel and I disagree on every single game, and Joe get all of them right, he can end up in a tie. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because I would expect for us to have some overlap in our picks, even if I pick first. So he's got the option to go contrarian. There's going to be times where it's like, do you really think this team is going to beat that team? I know we're in the playoffs and it's been the season of crazy, so maybe we wouldn't agree. But we're going to start up with Buffalo at Denver as the early Saturday game. Josh Allen, if he plays his best game, the Broncos are going to have a really, really long day. That defense needs to step up to shut him down. The Broncos do have a great defense. They can shut down the Bills' offense if they can keep Josh Allen contained. Then the other question is, can Bo Nix and that offense do enough to beat the Bills? The Bills, like we already said, they don't have the roadblocks they typically have in the way this postseason. So if they're not going to get it done this year, they may not have an opportunity to do it later. Denver, they're the 1 seed. I know a lot of people don't look at them as the best team in the AFC. That may or may not be true, but they are the 1 seed. They earn the 1 seed, and they have the home game against the Bills. Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, this one definitely not a shock that the Denver Broncos are minus 1.5 favorites over under 45.5 minus 125 money line. And for this one, I think it's just as straight up as you look. And I know that the Buffalo Bills have been really charmed going into the divisional round. The fact that they're this far, but everything is all about not only James Cook, but it's all truly about Josh Allen, as it doesn't seem to matter who goes down. Gabe Davis is another one who just ended up going down again. Every time you turn around, that wide out room gets smaller and smaller. I mean, Cam Coleman is the one that everyone is elevating to be the
He's
go-to
gotta.
guy.
He's gotta be.
I
It's
mean,
him and Shakir are pretty much it. Curtis Samuel,
and
that's their wide receiver core right now. Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. They lost Shavers and Brandon Cooks, who was good last week. They lost
yeah,
Shavers. They lost Gabe Davis in last week's game against Jacksonville.
And the craziest thing about Shavers is that isn't he the one who played 22 snaps without an ACL?
Yeah,
I mean, that's insane. I mean, one just has to imagine the amount of pain that that inflicts on a body. And at this point, I know you're trying to make. If you pick the Bills, you're going all in. You're believing in Josh Allen, but here's why. Here's why I'm picking Broncos. I'm picking Broncos. I just think, how much can Josh Allen do on himself? Yes, I know he's Superman, but
yeah.
you saw his ankle get banged up. I think he got banged up in his helmet.
His
He's got to
ankle,
be,
his foot, his hand. He had a pass where he came through, got his hand. How healthy he is going to be a big factor that we're not going to know about till after they're eliminated.
yeah, because I mean, and all he came in with his foot because Trubisky played for him in the last regular season week, so he could rest up with his foot. That was already going into the playoffs. So you have all that. You have that Denver defense, and their offense is passable enough as it is. I just think that the Bills' magic has run out. Plus, you have the mile high altitude. Plus, you have that Denver defense. I just think Josh Allen's fabled window of opportunity is going to be slammed shut by the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I'm taking Denver as well. Pretty much for all the points you had said. Josh Allen. while he can go out and win a game by himself, he has done that in the past. It's typically against a team that their defense isn't a top 2 or 3 unit in the NFL. The Denver defense is one of those. They're going to put pressure on him. They're going to keep him contained the best they can. If they can just say, "Hey, we've got Patrick Surtain, we've got I think it's Riley Marks on the outside." Um, if we can have those two just shut down Coleman and Shakir, have a linebacker take Kincaid out of play, that passing game is going to be nerfed very quickly. And then it's just have a spy on Josh Allen, shut down the running game. And I think it's going to be a much lower scoring game than it needs to be for Buffalo to win. I trust Bo Nix and his offense to put up at least 20 to 25 points. And I think that Denver defense holds the Bills under 20, and they get the win. Moving on to San Francisco at Seattle. Rematch of the Week 18 Saturday game that Seattle won and got the 1 seed. San Francisco only scored 3 points in that game. Not a great game for them. But we're now in the playoffs. Sam Darnold has been very, very poor in high pressure situations in the past. We saw it last year with Minnesota. We'll see how it is this year with Seattle. Obviously, go back further than that. It's not a good story. For San Francisco, you're down to Christian McCaffrey, and then it's Jawan Jennings. Jake Tonjes at tight end. Ricky Pearsall might be coming back. And Brock Purdy's been good, but this defense is they overachieved last week against a bad offense in Philadelphia. Seattle's got a better offense. It'll be interesting there. Seattle's got one of the better defenses in the NFL. And, of course, with JSN, they could take the top off of defense if they need to. But we've seen Sam Darnold shrink one too many times to think that, San Francisco's really beat up. They don't have a chance in this one. But, Joel, who do you got?
And plus, you also have the recent development of course, Sam Donald and the oblique officially being listed as questionable, but he's definitely trending towards playing. And but Drew Lock is definitely on standby. But you look at this game, I still think the onus has got to be on Seattle's defense, Ryan. I mean, that's the big question. Seattle's defense, and even if it comes down to at some point they got to stick Lock in there, if the Seattle defense can shut down the Niners offense, I think that's going to be the definite game changer. And the 49ers is missing yet another piece because of the George Kittle injury. And how much without Kittle can they depend solely on Brock Purdy and CMC to just pound and ground and get the job done? So I know, because the whole question is, can Sam Donald's step up, or does he see some ghosts? I still think you're going to lean on that Seattle defense that has definitely been big time all year. San Francisco 49ers is the same case as the Bills. They've had amazing amount of magic. I just think because of Kittle, another piece missing from that San Francisco 49ers offense, and I don't think they have enough to get by Seattle, who is the touchdown favorites by 7. I'm picking Seattle.
Yeah, and George Kittle's injury, yes, it hurts the passing game, but it really hurts the running game. I remember when he came back, all of a sudden Christian McCaffrey had his best rushing game of the season. So losing him, it's a key blocking piece. I think they get a lot of the production in the receiving game that Kittle was doing. They can get that from Jake Tonjes. It's just he's not as good of a blocker. So that's going to be where it
He's like a
really
George
hurts the
Kittle
offense.
light.
Yeah, he can catch the ball just fine, but when it comes to blocking, he's a little worse. And that's going to be a big factor. I do think Seattle's defense gets it done, and a steady dose of Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet for Seattle.
Just ask Minnesota that one game.
Yeah. Let's not put the pressure on Sam Darnold. Let's let that running game help you open up the passing game. Let Sam Darnold get settled in, because if Sam Darnold goes in early, they rely on him to throw the ball all over the field, and San Francisco gets a sack or a fumble or an interception early. Maybe those ghosts come out. I don't think that's what happens. I'm taking Seattle as well. I just think the defense is too good. That San Francisco defense is beyond beat up, and then losing Kittle on the offensive side is, I think, a
So
bridge
far,
too
we
far.
have agreed on 2 games.
The next one is we'll see if we agree here as well. Houston going to New England. Houston, one of the best defenses in the NFL. New England, the number 2 seed, but really didn't get tested in the regular season. For Houston, though, no Nico Collins this week, already ruled out with a head injury. So they'll have to get by with Higgins, with Jaden Noel, Christian Kirk, who had a very good game last week. Dalton Schultz, and of course Woody Marks and Nick Chubb in the backfield. For New England, um, the defense looked very, very good last week against a rough Chargers offense. Houston's offense is not one that's particularly scary, but can Drake May and the New England Patriots offense do enough to beat Houston's elite defense? I think that's where this game's breakdown really has to be focused on. And Joel, where do you see it going?
I'm looking at it from a whole different point of view, just because I know defense is definitely the way to look at this. But you look at the Texans and you look at how they performed, or rather than lack thereof, for a great part of that game against the Steelers. CJ Stroud looked anything but immortal. I mean, all of a sudden you were just wondering how many times he's going to cough up the ball. And if the Steelers were able to capitalize on that more, it might have been an entirely different narrative, other than the Steelers having just one of the worst games in their franchise history. And you already mentioned the main key thing and the main reason why I'm definitely picking the Patriots. No Nico Collins. When CJ Stroud does not have his main weapon, his main man, it is an entirely different team out there. And the Patriots, just Drake May can make things happen. Is he going to get sacked? Yes. Is he going to take fumbles? Probably. But I just think the Patriots have the better offense of the two. It's always the two-headed tank. You've got Ramondre Stevenson. You've got Trevion Henderson. That has proven to be lethal when they can get going against opponents. Drake May just getting things done. You can get Diggs in there with some action going. I don't think we're going to have a high flying, super, fun whole bunch of scores type game, but I just think the Patriots at home with that offense can stand up to the Texans' defense, especially when the Texans' offense is going to be hampered by their main weapon not being there. No Nico Collins, and that's why I'm taking the Patriots.
I'm still taking Houston. Nico Collins being out does complicate that a little bit for me. It makes it more of a toss up in my opinion. But at the end of the day, Drake May has not faced an elite defense like this in his career, really. And this season's been a very, very, very cakewalky kind of year for him. You saw last week against the Chargers, who have a good to upper end defense, not a great defense. He struggled a little bit. So I do think there's going to be some real cracks in the armor for him this week. And I think Houston's defense gets it done. I think Christian Kirk, I think Jaden Higgins, and I think Jalen Noel can do enough to compensate for the loss of Nico Collins. Get Dalton Schultz involved, pound the rock with the running game. You've got two great running backs in Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. Keep the Patriots offense on the sideline, keep them off balance the best you can. And they should be able to get the job done. Houston's defense is elite, and they are on a double-digit game winning streak to this point. So
Our first
it's a
disagreement.
it's a it's a tough pick because New England, they are the 2 seed. They've earned the 2 seed, but they've earned it by beating a lot of bottom feeder type of teams, and the Houston Texans are just not a bottom feeder type of team. So we'll see what happens there. We go to our final game. The Los Angeles Rams going to Chicago to face the Bears, the only hope in the NFC for a non-NFC West champion. Uh, the Bears.
Minus 4.5 Ram favorites.
That's disrespectful. I mean, we'll get to our picks here in a little bit. I definitely think the Rams are the better team. Obviously, home field, weather, all is going to play a factor in this. But the Rams, you've got everybody on the offensive side of the ball. You've got Adams, you've got Puka, you've got Kyron and Corum, and all your tight ends that are playing really, really well. Matthew Stafford's possibly the MVP. For Chicago, they're a team that likes the dramatics. They've got 7 come from behind wins in the fourth quarter of this season. Caleb Williams has been very good in high pressure situations, and Colston Loveland's on an absolute breakout right now. The Bears they haven't showed us that they want to lose. They hate to lose, it seems like, and that is a powerful thing. But the Rams, I said earlier, they might be the best team in the playoffs for talent. Joel, who do you got?
This one is one that I originally originally was going one way, but I was thinking about it, and when the premise for your argument, Ryan, is just you're trying to justify it, that's trying to tell you you need to go the other way. You know what I mean? When you come up with your reasons, you're like, okay, okay, and then you're trying to justify those reasons, and it's just not holding up in your mind. It's just isn't. And my reasons initially for picking Chicago was I was all trying to go all in on the weather, travel, and everything affecting Matthew Stafford and his record. And I immediately decided, you know what? I'm going to throw that all out. I'm going to throw all that out because if something seems to be flimsy, it probably is.
Matthew
It,
Stafford 1-9 in cold weather games, but one of the factors you have to remember is he played for the Lions, who just didn't win games.
yeah, and that's a whole different animal, literally,
Yeah,
than
Lions and
playing
Rams are very different animals.
than playing for the Rams. So all of a sudden, you have two completely different cultures, two completely different coaches, and all of a sudden, if that's the argument that you're trying to make why the Bears will win, that just doesn't seem like a barely passable argument. So I know, because the other argument you could say, well, the Rams. I mean, they end up going against the Panthers, and the Panthers really play them tough, and the Bears can be as tough or tougher than the Panthers. But then you also tend to think that the Rams have two legit wide receiver threats. Puka when he's not going on the live streams and doing stupid crap, and one Devonte Adams when he's not having one of those where did that truck come from hits laid him on him and just knocks him the out from last week, and hopefully he's I don't think he's banged up enough to affect
No,
his game performance.
he
and
came
so
back into the game last week. After that, he's not concussed. He'll be fine for this week.
and so my earlier argument that I was trying to pick the Bears, I decided to toss it out. I'm like, okay, Bears are close. They're a season or two away, maybe from being that team, maybe from being dangerous. You've got to pick the Rams. You have to pick the Rams. They have more firepower, more threats. They're the better team, both sides of the ball. Because DJ Moore is a decent threat, but when he's in there, because he's had times where all of a sudden, poof, where has he gone? Where did he go? So yeah, I'm as much as I'm trying to make the case for the Bears, the fact that they're even here in itself is amazing. But you got to pick the Rams. I think the Rams move on. Hell of a season by Ben Johnson. Hell of a season by the Bears. But I think it ends here.
The Bears have been very successful due to their ability to turn the other team over. They led the league in takeaways this year. Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Fame quarterback of the future. Uh, he's going to control the ball game. He's not going to turn the ball over. If you look at these teams, I think pretty much at every position other than the tight end on the offensive side of the ball, you would rather have the Rams players. Quarterback, you'd rather have Stafford over Caleb Williams. That may not be the case in a year or two, like you'd said. Wide receivers, Puka or Adams versus DJ Moore and Dunze, it's not close. Manungai and Swift versus Kyron and Blake Corum.
Remember,
I'd rather have the Brown. I'd rather have the Rams running backs all over the place, and they have a great defense. They For whatever reason, Carolina just seems like they have the Rams number. I don't expect that to be the case here. And Chicago, they like to get down early and try and climb their way back. The Rams are a team that if they get rolling, you're going to have a very hard time stopping them. And I think the Rams are arguably, again, the most talented team left in the postseason. So I'm taking the Rams as well. I don't really see an easy path for Chicago. Of course, it's the playoffs. You've earned your spot here. Any team can beat any team on any given day, but I think the Rams get it done. All right, moving
so
on to final thoughts, or you got something else?
one disagreement.
One disagreement: Houston and New England. Um, Good slate of games, I think, this weekend. I really think they'll all be pretty entertaining games. Hopefully, if we can get some offense in the Houston New England game, make that a little more watchable.
Two quick final thoughts. First one, having to congratulate seriously Tampa Bay Lightning riding an 11 flippin' game winning streak. Boo to the yaw. And my second final thought, definitely have to tip the cap to after George Kittle ended up getting knocked out with that absolutely brutal, horrific injury that he did have successful surgery, I saw yesterday or today. One of the owners of the 49ers got him some medicinal tequila. So if you're going to be hurt, that's the way to go, especially when you have an owner get you tequila. You know it's got to be the good stuff. And those are my two final thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on that second one and just talk about how good organizations find a way to do the unconventional things well to make sure their players feel appreciated. George Kittle is going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind about that. He's been a great tight end, arguably one of the most famous tight ends of all time. I mean, the whole tight end day started with George Kittle on the sideline chirping, "It's happy! Oh, it's tight ends day! It's tight ends day!" So but to have the owner be one of the first people to check up on your players during a playoff game says a lot about the way that franchise is run. You hear about teams like Cincinnati and Carolina and Arizona when they do those NFL like team report cards and how they treat their players and staffs. You always see them at the bottom. I know the Dolphins are always at the top, even though we've got terrible ownership. But for the owner and the higher ups to say, "Hey, I know that game's going on. There's not really much I can do here, but let me make sure the man that I know that I care about that I pay to play for my team. Let me make sure the man down there is okay. I know he's hurting pretty bad. Oh, this will help him. Yeah, here you go, buddy. Have it. I don't care if it's $1,000 bottle of tequila. I don't know if it was, but." And then George Kittle, being just who George Kittle is, came out and said, "Hey, I'm still here for my team. I'm going to be there week in, week out in the way I can be." I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to be assisting coaching for the tight ends to try and make sure this team's as good as possible. But it's just a kudos to a well-run organization in San Francisco out there, and I think they're going to lose this week, but they'll still a class act and a great organization.
Kyle Shanahan, Coach of the Year, seriously.
I'm trying to think of who else would get it. I mean, Ben Johnson with the Bears,
Vrabel's going to get it.
Vrabel. Yeah, it's going to be a team like I think it's going to be Vrabel just because the Titans.
Pete Carroll, Kappa.
No. Anyways, that's our time. Back next week for the recap of this round, the preview of the championship games, and we're getting very close to the end of the football season. I am flying Ryan Rango just along with. We still got
Motormouth Joel Rome.
Hey, at least we still got hockey, and both our teams don't suck this year. It's a nice change for me. And with that, we go.